Identifying.
The king of cakes. Chopper for the win.
G'day guys, welcome back to Cakes by Chopper. Today's cake is Belle, who was the winner of the Facebook post where she received more than half the amount of total votes. So what you're going to do is head over to the Cakes by Chopper Facebook page, print off your Belle template, and then cut out the large oval with the border around it, but ignore the flowers at the top. We're just going to come back and create them later. As usual, you can fill these cakes with whatever is your favorite flavoring. I've used here a whipped ganache, and then I'm going to leave a little edge around the border so when I do the crumb coat later, the stronger normal ganache will fill in those and keep the cake supported without squishing the whipped stuff out the side. Just give it a normal crumb coat, let that cool in the fridge, and then apply some more ganache around the edges and across the top. And then you're going to use a scraping tool to remove the excess to give you nice lines around the edge, and don't forget to smooth out the top and pull your edges in with a small offset spatula. Now it's time to roll out some pink fondant. I left this a little bit marbled because this is a background display piece for Belle to sit on. When I've cut out the smaller oval, I've placed that on and used about, I don't know, an extra 3 to 5 centimeters around the edge, just because I know the decorations are going to sit over the top. I used some red food dye to paint in some roses, and then some green food dye with a little bit of the whitening gel to make it pop, and gave each rose a couple of leaves and a stem, and then I put some random little flicks of green around just to give it that little extra something. I felt it looked a little too bare as it was. Place that aside and let it firm up. Then you're going to roll out some pink flesh tone fondant, cut out the entire shape of Belle, staying very close to the template because this is going to give you your dimensions for everything. The next step is to cut out just Belle's face. Once again, keep it thin, and you're going to cut it right as close to the template as you can. Using your little fondant impression tools, mark out where her eyes and mouth would be. Smooth out the edges around the side. Place it on top using the template, and then you're going to melt that together with your finger at the side so it sits and looks like it's one piece. Putting in the markings for her collarbones and clothes will help for later on. Then you're going to roll out some brown fondant and cut out Belle's entire hair, including the ponytail. There is no room for excess on this one either. Cut it as close as you can to the template and then place it on. You will get a little bit of a movement when you shift the fondant over. As you can see here, I just trimmed it off where it wasn't necessary. Then you're going to get the second part of her hair, which is the fringe pieces and the first curl at the side. Cut that out, and you're going to place that on top to give the hair some dimension. And you just use the template to see where it sits, place it on top, and then you're going to get your impression tool again and mark out all the hairlines. I'd have the template right next to you so you can follow each individual line. The more attention you pay to this, the better it's going to look. Now we're on the detail of her eyes. You're going to use the template to get the sizing of little white balls of fondant, get the rough shape, and then place them on in the little indentations. Then you can use your tools to make sure they look just right. As you can see, I've just been very careful here when placing them in so I don't smash them out too much. Now it's time to place on 2 lighter brown dots for her eye color, and then you're just going to place them on gently and lightly push them down until you've got about the right size. Then I went over it with a little bit of brown food dye to give it a little bit of texture and dimension. Placing in some black dots out of gel food dye for her pupils, and then 2 little white dots to bring the eyes to life. As you can see, I did the lips here, but I'm going to remove them later, so just ignore them for right now. Paint in her eyebrows, and then you're going to use a very thin brush to trace around her eye. I was actually really happy with these lines. They were nice and thin, but unfortunately the cake sweat and they got a bit thicker later, but they looked really nice when I painted them on. Trace the entire eye, add a little eyelid and then some eyelashes. Then you can do her nose and the bridge of her nose, and then her little nostril. Here's where I've removed the lips because I just wasn't happy with them. So I placed in a little bit of white fondant and then 2 rolled out thin pieces, one at the top, one at the bottom, and then used the tool to tape them in and smooth them out. Place on 2 white pieces underneath where the blue would be. This just gives her dress a little bit more dimension. Then you're going to get the light blue and cut out her shoulder pieces. I actually couldn't find a reference picture for where this dress was. Her dress in the movie is more of an overall top, but this is like a shawl, so I'm not actually sure what the go is with that. So I followed the template and made the material lines, and then place a little blue square in the middle and change the direction of the material, and you'll get that final dress look. The next part is to add in her bow, which is a little dot and then a hooked curving ribbon, and just use the impression tool to give that a little bit of dimension and lines. Now you're onto the sides of the cake, where I rolled out some bright yellow fondant and then cut it into strips. And using the impression tool, I sort of put curves all the way down and then little lines in the middle to make it look like draped material. Once you're happy with the look of it, you can place it against the side of the cake and continue that process all the way around the side of the cake, making sure to trim it off as close to the top as you can. Don't be as messy as I did and leave gaps. From my angle it looked fine, but I see on the video that it wasn't. Now Belle and the background have been put together and placed on top, and then I rolled out 2 thick snakes of a bit of a darker yellow and twisted that into a rope effect, because I thought that would look a lot better than the little pattern that was on the template, but by all means follow the template if you like. When you get it on top of the cake, just wrap it together and then put a cut through both edges, and you can join that and it seals up nicely. Adding a little bit more red to the leftover orangey coloured fondant. Well, I went for gold, but it turned orange. So you roll it into a long strip, trim off the edges, and then using a plastic cup, you're going to run it down the length of this, cutting little swoops out. I just did a rough count and placed them over every 2 strips of the material. So as you can see, it lined up perfectly because I had an even number. It would help to count yours so you know where to place them. You can put a join in between them of little orange dots of fondant. I've rolled them into a ball and just pushed them on. And then I got some red fondant to make 3 little roses that are going to sit at the top. If you just squish out little balls, they don't have to be nice and neat. Flatten them out and then wrap them around, making sure you go across every second part. And as you can see, trim the bottom off and make 3 little roses. Then use some green fondant to cut out some leaf shapes. Then I did the leaf pattern all the way along and then reversed it and went the other way, so it had a bit of a texture to it. Placed the 2 leaves at the top. I liked how they draped over, and then positioned the 3 roses, and that's that part done. To look a little bit more fancy, I got some sugar pearls and put them in the joins between the material swoops, and then I used a impression tool to sort of push in some lines to give the material some movement and drapery. I guess, is that a word? Drapery? Anyway, thanks to everybody who voted on Facebook. Please check out this princess playlist that I've added here, also my Rick and Morty cake from last week, and my channel spotlight goes to Cooking with Karma and Louie from Louie's Loops. Great channels, please check them out and show them some love. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.